Imagine picking up an old dirty UK Elizabeth coins and discovering it's not just pocket change, but a life-changing treasure, yes. Hidden in drawers, jars, and old purses across the UK are coins so rare, so mysterious, and so unbelievably valuable that collectors. The 1971 UK Elizabeth II new pence coin catches your eye. It looks ordinary, it looks worn, it looks dull, but something about it feels different. And in that moment, you have no idea, absolutely no idea, that this one old, dirty 1971 new pence coin, if a rare error, is hiding beneath those decades of grime. These are the discoveries that transform everyday people into legends, coins that go from nearly worthless to life-changing in seconds. And today, I'm going to reveal everything about the rarest, most valuable, and most shocking 1971-era coins ever found, and why collectors all over the world are desperately hunting for them even now. Stay with me until the end, because the most unbelievable value, the one that could hit £1 million or more, is coming up last. The year 1971 was monumental for British coinage. The UK was preparing for decimalisation, the biggest change to the money system in modern history. Old pre-decimal coins were being phased out, and new decimal coins, including the 1 new penny, were being rushed into production. The Royal Mint was working at explosive speed, striking millions upon millions of brand new decimal coins. Machines were running nonstop. Dies were out quickly. Planchets jammed. Presses misaligned. And in the chaos of that massive transition, rare and valuable mistakes slipped into circulation. Let's start with one of the most legendary mistakes. The off-metal. This happens when a 1 new penny is struck on the wrong metal blank, often a brass blank meant for a 2p coin, or a leftover pre-decimal bronze blank. These off-metal errors instantly grab attention. They weigh differently, they sound different, and they look different. Struck on a brass planchet doesn't have the typical copper tone, it appears gold-like. These gold penny errors have sold for £3,000 to £5,000, and rare examples in high grade have touched £10,000 and beyond. But collectors believe there are still more out there, especially coins that are dirty, corroded, or mixed in old jars where the unusual color is hidden by age. Then you have the dramatic broad strike and collarless errors. A broad strike 1971 UK Elizabeth II new pence coin occurs when the coin is struck without the outer retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread out wider than normal. These coins look stretched, swollen, and completely abnormal. Values range from £200 for low-grade pieces to £1,000 to £2,000, or even £4,000 when the strike is dramatic and clean. And here's the best part. Even dirty, damaged broad strikes are worth money because the error itself, not the condition, is what collectors pay for. Off-center strike coin, one of the most visually shocking errors. When the blank isn't seated correctly, the design lands way off to one side. You might see half a portrait of the Queen, a missing date, or a new penny design front and center with a giant blank crescent around the edge. These coins are instantly collectible. Light off-center strikes bring, while extreme off-center strikes with more than 40% missing can hit £1,000 to £2,000, and even £5,000. In rare cases where the design is nearly falling off the coin completely, values can explode even higher. Another rare and valuable mistake is the double strike error. This happens when the coin is struck, doesn't eject properly, and gets hit again. The images overlap, shift, distort, or appear ghosted across the surface. A strong double strike on can easily fetch £600 to £1,200, or in extreme cases over £3,000. A few of the most dramatic examples where the second strike is wildly rotated have reached even higher prices in private sales. One of the most bizarre and valuable is the mules and wrong die pairings. These happen when one side of the coin is struck with the wrong die entirely. Imagine a 1971 new pence coin with an obverse from another denomination or a reverse from the wrong die stage. These are so rare that collectors will pay almost anything for a confirmed example. A mule error from another UK denomination has sold for over, and experts agree that a perfect mule from 1971, especially one involving flawless die pairing, could easily reach £50,000 to £100,000 or more. What makes this so exciting is that many of these rare 1971 errors are not sitting in museums. They're not in auction houses. They're not in collector vaults. They're still out there hidden in basements, drawers, old jars, charity boxes, flea market tins, and family belongings that haven't been touched since the 1970s. Most people don't check 1971 pennies. They assume they're worthless. And because metals darken over time, many of the rare off-metal or silver errors are completely disguised under decades of dirt. The old dirty 1979 UK Elizabeth II new pence coin. Dull, scratched, dark, almost forgotten. It looks like every other pocket-worn coin from the past. But hidden under that dirt could be one of the most valuable mistakes ever produced by the Royal Mint. A single rare error hiding beneath decades of scratches could transform what seems like a worthless penny into a treasure. Yes, some collectors believe the right 1979 new pence error coin could break every record known. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll find out which one has the potential to reach life-changing value. The year 1979 seems ordinary in British coinage history, but hidden inside that year is one of the strangest, most fascinating, and most unpredictable patterns of mint errors. The Royal Mint was shifting production methods, experimenting with new die styles, and managing huge coin output at a time when machinery was being heavily pushed. Dies wore down fast, presses jammed, and the pressure to keep up with demand meant error coins were far more likely to slip through unnoticed. And that's exactly what makes the magnet for rare, valuable, and shockingly expensive errors. Let's start with one of the most sought-after types. The off-metal. This happens when the coin is struck on the wrong metal blank. For example, instead of bronze, the coin might be struck on a brass blank mint for a 2-pence piece, or even more rarely, on a foreign coin planchet from another country whose metals were mixed in during production. An off-metal 1979 coin has a completely different appearance, more yellow, more golden, or sometimes strangely silver toned, depending on the blank. These unusual color shifts grab collectors instantly. A confirmed 1979 off-metal strike can bring £1,000 to £3,000, even £10,000 when certified. And many of these coins, especially the dirty, dark ones, hide their unique metal composition under years of corrosion, which means the rarest ones may still be undiscovered. Next, we have one of the most visually dramatic and highly valuable mistakes, the off-center strike. Imagine a coin where the Queen's portrait is pushed halfway off the coin, or the new pence design is floating to one side with a giant blank crescent where the rest of the strike should be. These bizarre-looking coins stand out immediately to collectors. A light off-center strike from 1979 might sell for £200 or £300, but when it reaches an extreme 40%, 50%, even 60% off-center, the price skyrockets to £1,000 to £2,000 or £4,000. Extreme examples with clear and bold misalignments have reached even higher in private sales. Then there's the broad strike error, a classic that collectors love. A broad strike occurs when the retaining collar fails, allowing the coin to spread wider than normal. It creates a stretched, warped appearance with an unusually wide rim. Even a dirty, scratched broad strike coin with circulation can bring £2,000 to £5,000, while large dramatic broad strikes can easily hit £1,500 or more. And because this error happens due to specific machine malfunctions, high-grade broad strikes from 1979 are incredibly scarce. Now let's go even deeper into the rarest category: double struck and multiple strike error coins. These mistakes happen when the coin doesn't eject after the first strike and gets hit again. Sometimes the second strike overlaps only slightly, creating ghost-like doubling. Other times the second strike is rotated, shifted, or lands in a completely different position, creating one of the most bizarre and visually shocking coins a collector can see. A bold double strike from 1979 can bring £800 to £1,500, even £3,000. And a rotated double strike, where the second strike climb even higher depending on clarity point. One of the most mysterious and valuable types is the mule error. A mule occurs when two mismatched dies are paired, usually one from a different denomination or a different year. Mule errors are incredibly rare, but collectors believe at least a few exist. A confirmed mule error from this period could bring £10,000 to £25,000, even £50,000, depending on its uniqueness. And if a previously unknown mule surfaced today, especially one combining a 1979 reverse with a wrong obverse die type, it could easily break six figures. And here's the part that makes this year so exciting: many of these rare errors are still completely undiscovered. They're not sitting in display cases or auction houses. They're in people's homes, tucked away in drawers, piggy banks, family coin collections, old jars, and charity donation boxes. Many are dirty, dark, scratched, or stuck to other coins. Some have corrosion that hides an unusual metal. Others have grime covering the off-center design or the missing strike. Someone could easily hold a 1,000-pound or million-pound 1979 penny in their hand and think it's worthless. What if I told you that old, dirty 1968 coin? Yes, the 1968-era UK Elizabeth V new pence coin might be one of the most shockingly valuable coins hiding in everyday collections. What if I told you that some versions of this coin, especially the extremely rare error types, can reach values not just in the hundreds or thousands of pounds, but in the right condition and the right error, even into the six-figure or potentially million-pound category? Most people don't even know these exist. Most collectors have never seen one. And by the time you finish watching this video, you might start digging through every old coin jar you can find, because this tiny coin could be life-changing. The story begins in 1968, a year of massive changes in British currency. This was the beginning of decimalization, where the UK started transitioning from the old pound shillings pence system to the modern decimal system we know today. The Royal Mint introduced a new series of coins, including the brand new 5 new pence. It was designed to replace the older shilling and to introduce a fresh, modern look for the new monetary era. This coin was produced in huge quantities. Hundreds of millions were minted and released into circulation. Because of that, most people assume that any 1968 5 new pence coin is extremely common and has no special value point. One of the most famous and valuable types of 1968 era coins involves misstrikes. These occur when the coin is struck off-center or when the design is not properly aligned. An off-center strike showing clear blank areas with a visible portrait of the Queen and readable lettering is extremely valuable. Even a mild off-center error from 1968 can sell for hundreds or thousands of pounds. But if you find a severe misstrike, especially one showing less than half the design or a massive shift in the striking position, collectors can easily pay tens of thousands of pounds, because extreme misstrike errors were almost never allowed to leave the Royal Mint. Another huge category of valuable errors involves planchet mistakes. The planchet is the metal blank used before striking. If the wrong type of metal was used, or if the metal was improperly blended, the coin could take on a different color, weight, or thickness. A 1968 5 new pence struck on the wrong planchet, such as a foreign coin blank or an experimental test metal, is incredibly rare. These are the kinds of errors that have sold for over £10,000 to £20,000, and in some cases, similar foreign coin errors have crossed £100,000 at auction. And imagine this: if a unique planchet error from 1968 were ever authenticated one of a kind, it could potentially reach prices collectors speculate might even approach the six-figure or seven-figure range, simply due to the historical importance of the first year of decimal coinage. But that's not the only error to look for. Double strikes are another rare and highly valuable type. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by the minting press, leaving a doubled portrait, doubled lettering, or a dramatic shifted second strike. A clearly visible double strike from 1968 is extremely desirable because the Royal Mint had strict quality control in the first year of decimal production. That means very few double strike errors survived. A strong double strike can easily bring in thousands of pounds today, especially if it has clear detail and hasn't been damaged over time. Even dirty or heavily circulated examples are still extremely valuable because rarity is far more important than condition. Collectors pay the highest prices for coins authenticated by grading services like NGC or PCGS. A standard 1968 5 new pence in perfect mint condition might only be worth a few pounds, but an error coin in mint state is a different story entirely. A dramatic off-center strike or wrong planchet error in top grade can sell for £5,000 to £10,000 and £20,000, and sometimes more. And if the error is unique or historically significant, the price can skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands or potentially into the million-pound range. Auction houses love coins like these because they attract global attention and fierce bidding wars. Even circulated, bent, scratched, or dirty errors still bring huge money because collectors care about rarity above all else. A dirty 1968 error coin found in an attic or old biscuit tin can still sell for hundreds or thousands. Some collectors specifically hunt for circulated errors because they tell a more interesting story. They escaped the mint, went into circulation, and somehow survived years of handling without being destroyed. What to look for: off-center strikes with visible design, double strikes, wrong metal planchets, die clashes, test strikes, weak strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes where the coin has expanded outside the die collar, and even rotated dies where the reverse does not align correctly with the obverse. Any of these errors on a 1968 coin is valuable, but dramatic examples are the ones that reach breathtaking prices. This is why you should always check old British coins, especially from the early decimal years. 1968 was a transitional year, full of experimentation, new production methods, and increased demand for minting speed. All of these factors made errors more likely, yet extremely few survived. Most were caught, melted, and destroyed immediately. That means the few surviving pieces are incredibly rare today. What if that old, dirty 1971 era UK Elizabeth V new pence coin you ignored for years could actually be worth hundreds, thousands, or even in extreme, once-in-a-lifetime cases, potentially millions of pounds? This isn't fantasy. This is the reality behind one of the most overlooked treasures in UK decimal coinage. And by the time you finish this video, you will never look at an old 5 new pence coin the same way again, because the rarest 1971 errors are so valuable that collectors battle fiercely whenever one appears. The story of the 1971 5 new pence coin begins during a huge change in British history, the full rollout of decimal currency. Unlike the earlier 1968 pre-decimalization test coins, the 1971 issue was the first year the coin officially entered circulation across the United Kingdom. Millions were produced, and for most people, they were just everyday pocket change. But hidden among the millions of perfectly normal coins were a tiny number of mint errors, mistakes that slipped through strict Royal Mint quality control during an era when new machinery, new processes, and high-speed production created rare opportunities for striking anomalies. These coins are so scarce that many remain undiscovered to this day, sitting in old boxes, coin jars, or collections where nobody notices their true identity or value point. One of the most sought-after types of errors from 1971 is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is not perfectly positioned under the dies during striking. Most of these mistakes were caught and destroyed by the Royal Mint, so surviving examples are extremely rare. An off-center strike with clear visible portrait and readable lettering can fetch hundreds or thousands of pounds. The more dramatic the misalignment, especially if part of the metal is blank, the higher the value climbs. Severe off-center strikes, the kind that show half the design missing, can sell for tens of thousands of pounds at auction because they are almost never seen from this year. And imagine a near-perfectly preserved mis-strike from 1971. A dramatic mint error in top grade could potentially push into six-figure territory because early decimal errors are historically significant. Another major rarity comes from wrong planchet errors when a coin is accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal. These mistakes are incredibly rare from early decimal years. A 1971 5 new pence struck on a foreign planchet or the wrong metal composition would be worth a massive amount. Some wrong planchet decimal coins have sold for over £30,000 to £50,000 and more. And if a unique example from 1971 were discovered, especially one that can be traced to early minting experiments, it could realistically reach six figures or even speculation-level values approaching the £1 million mark. It sounds unbelievable, but unique mint errors have fetched insane prices because collectors chase anything that is truly one of a kind. But that is only the beginning. Double strikes from 1971 are incredibly valuable. These occur when the coin is struck twice by the dies, resulting in two overlapping images of the queen or the lettering. A clean, sharp double strike where the second impression is clearly visible is a major treasure. Even heavily circulated or dirty double strikes are worth thousands because the rarity outweighs condition. A dramatic double strike with major design shift is the kind of coin that collectors fight bitterly over at auctions. If you ever find one of these, even in terrible condition, you're holding something worth serious money. Then there are die clashes where the dies slam into each other without a planchet between them, imprinting ghost images of the opposite side's design. A visible die clash on a 1971 5 new pence is astonishingly rare. A strong clash that shows elements of the thistle on the queen's portrait or traces of the portrait behind the thistle can bring in thousands. Some clash errors from this era have sold for 5 figures because they are so unusual. And then comes one of the rarest and most exciting error types, broad strikes. A broad strike error happens when the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread outwards like a slightly larger pancake. These coins look strange, wider, flatter, and often with stretched lettering. A broad strike is extremely rare because the minting process that year was tightly controlled during decimal introduction. A well-preserved broad strike can command thousands. A dramatic broad strike with clear stretching could even sell for tens of thousands. But the most mysterious and potentially most valuable type of all is the rumored existence of test strikes and experimental pieces from 1971. During the decimal rollout, the Royal Mint conducted multiple tests to calibrate machinery, refine die pressure, and ensure consistency. Some of these test coins were struck on experimental metals, trial planchets, or with prototype dies. These pieces were never intended for public release, yet history tells us that sometimes, despite strict controls, a few may escape into circulation or private hands. If even one authentic 1971 test strike surfaced today, especially in the wrong metal or with trial markings, it could be worth an astronomical amount. Collectors would pay 6 figures instantly. Auction houses would explode with attention. Collectors today know the truth: early decimal error coins are one of the hottest parts of the market. Prices have skyrocketed in auctions, and new discoveries are constantly attracting high levels of excitement. A rare 1971 error certified by NGC or PCGS in high grade can easily sell for thousands. Dramatic errors, wrong planchets, strong double strikes, extreme misstrikes can go into the tens of thousands. And truly unique examples, the once-in-a-generation finds, can reach the kind of value only the rarest coins in the world command. Imagine this. You're sitting at home, casually going through a handful of old, dirty change that's been lying in a drawer for decades when suddenly, one strange, worn-out 50-pence coin catches your eye. It looks odd, different, slightly off from the others. And at first, you think it's just another old coin with scratches and dirt. What if I told you that this one old, dirty 1997 UK Elizabeth 50-pence coin could secretly be worth more money than a brand new luxury car? What if I told you that some rare error versions of this same coin have shocked collectors with values reaching into potentially even millions of pounds? The 50-pence coin was redesigned in 1997, shrinking from its original larger size to the smaller, lighter version we still use today. That year became a turning point, not just for British coinage, but also for collectors, because the Royal Mint was transitioning designs, adjusting equipment, and experimenting with new blanks. And whenever the Mint experiments, mistakes happen. And when mistakes happen, collectors pay massive amounts for them. Let's talk about the first type of valuable error, the misaligned die strike. On some 1997 50p coins, the dies that stamped the design were not perfectly aligned, causing the Queen's portrait or the Britannia design to appear slightly off-center. Normally, you'd think a tiny tilt or shift shouldn't matter. But in coin collecting, precision is everything. Even a mild misalignment can multiply the value of the coin into hundreds of pounds. Collectors love misaligned dies because they show that the minting process broke down for a split second, allowing a flawed coin to escape into circulation. Then we have the famous off-center strike, one of the most dramatic minting errors. Think of a coin where a portion of the design is cut off entirely. Sometimes a quarter of the design isn't even visible. These errors make the coin look like it was printed while sliding sideways. And the best part? The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more money collectors will pay. Minor off-center errors might sell for £200 to £500, but extreme ones, especially on 50p coins, can jump into the thousands of pounds range. Now here's where things get really exciting. Some 1997 50p coins were reportedly struck on the wrong size planchets. During the year of transition from large to small 50p coins, the Royal Mint was juggling different blanks. That means a few rare pieces may have been struck using either oversized or undersized blanks accidentally. These are the kinds of errors that can skyrocket in value because they represent a genuine minting anomaly. If one of these wrong planchet coins appears, and even more so if it has the full 1997 design correctly aligned on the wrong metal blank, collectors could push the price into the 5-figure range, or even higher. There are also double strikes, where the coin receives two impressions from the minting press. These coins look like they have ghost images or shadows of the Queen's portrait. Sometimes Britannia looks duplicated. These coins are incredibly sought after, especially if the second strike is rotated or offset. Prices for a dramatic double-struck 1997 50p can easily land between £600 and £3,000, depending on severity. One of the most jaw-dropping errors involves the coin being struck on the wrong metal composition entirely. This is extremely rare, but not impossible during transitional years. Imagine a 1997 50p struck on a foreign blank, or a metal leftover from a test run. If such a coin were authenticated, it wouldn't just be rare, it would be legendary. Errors of this magnitude are often considered once-in-a-generation finds, and this is where values can truly explode. If a wrong metal 1997 50p were ever confirmed, and in an extreme scenario, if the error is dramatic enough, possibly reach over £1 million in a high-profile auction, let's talk circulation. Most of these rare error coins entered circulation like any other normal coin. They were picked up at shops, handed out as change, tossed into pockets, scraped across metal counters, and ended up scratched, dirty, worn, and ignored. That is exactly why so many people still have them without even realizing it. They blend in. They look old and dull, not rare and expensive. And that is what makes this story so exciting, because right now, as you're watching this video, you might have change sitting in a jar or at the bottom of a drawer containing one of these valuable minting mistakes. Collectors don't care if the coin is dirty. They don't care if it has decades of wear. They don't care if it looks dull or stained. In fact, the dirtier and older it looks, the more likely it is that it's been hiding in circulation since 1997 without being discovered. And that means it could be one of the rare early strike mistakes that slipped past quality control.